I'm here with Jess Perez. Jess, it's so nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. It's been a long time.
It has. Jess is actually a Central alumni. We were on the very first, we were on our very first News Watch together. So we go way back. The difference is Jess got done on time and I'm still here. So
Yeah, it's okay. Everyone gets done at their own pace.
yeah, that's what I keep telling myself. And then I should, before I forget, give a quick shout out. Cassius Buranu was going to be here as well. He was one of our old classmates, but he unfortunately couldn't make it because I had to reschedule. But shout out to Cassius. Wish you could have been here, man. But Jess, tell us about what your life has been like since graduation. You seem to have accomplished quite a lot in like a really short time.
Yeah, so after graduation, graduation was a little bit weird just because of COVID. It got moved up because originally I was supposed to be graduating in December, but then that got moved up to November so that students wouldn't go back for winter break and then come back. So it was a little bit rushed. I actually ended up getting hired around October, I believe. So before I even graduated, I had already signed my contract. And then once I knew that I was coming here, it was kind of that scrambling, oh, okay, I've graduated now, finished up my finals. Now it's time to switch gears to think into where am I going to live? How is starting this new job going to be? Am I going to be able to get everything done quickly? Because, you know, when you're on News Watch, you have a whole week to do a package.
Yeah.
You don't have a whole week. You have a couple hours. Especially, I'm also a Telemundo reporter. So I get in at 9:30 to work. And then my story for Telemundo has to be done by 2:00 so that it can be pre-recorded at 3:00. So that's, by the time the morning meeting is over, I have about 3 hours to put a story together. So that can be really stressful sometimes when people don't get back to you right away, or if your story falls through and you have to scramble to do something else. And then once I get that story done, if the same story correlates to the English audience for NBC, then I end up translating that story and it airs for NBC. If not, sometimes the stories don't correlate because the Hispanic audience will care about something else versus the NBC audience. It just doesn't correlate. So sometimes I'll have to do 2 different stories in one day. And it's fine because for NBC, I do have more time to do that. Telemundo is just a lot more, shorter time frame. And getting used to that was definitely the hardest part of going into the real world and starting work as a journalist there.
Absolutely. I mean, when they hired you, were you under the impression that you were going to be doing English and Spanish news, or did you get hired for one of them first and then they pitched this to you, or how did that all go down?
No, so I originally applied for a wake up reporter and then that position was filled. So what they did was Jeff Height sent out my name to like a bunch of news directors at like the Montana stations, at the Washington stations, and he was like, someone's going to call you back. Jenna is the news director at the Kennewick station. And so I had done a job shadow there like a year and a half earlier. So she kind of knew me, she knew my work, and she had mentioned to me that she wanted me to apply because one of their Telemundo reporters' contract was going to be up around the time that I graduated. So when she saw my reel, she remembered me and gave me a call back and interviewed me. And she kind of told me right away, I want you to do Telemundo and NBC. So at first I wasn't really sure about doing Spanish news because while Spanish is my first language, I definitely forgot a lot of it, especially in college, because I didn't have a lot of people to speak Spanish with. So getting that Spanish back, and like, sometimes you don't know words like aggravated assault. You don't use that in daily conversation. So you don't really know how to say that in Spanish or whatever if you're not using it every day. So picking up and relearning it like that was a little bit difficult at first, but now that I've been practicing it every day, it's gotten a lot easier and my Spanish is getting a lot better.
Do you have like, if you have a question like that, are you writing your own scripts? Like, does a producer say, or do you have a producer look over your script and he's like, oh, by the way, like in Spanish, we don't say aggravated assault, we say it like this or whatever? Or is it just all you have to research it yourself and figure it out?
No, so what I do when I can't figure out how to, say something is first I try Google Translate, but Google Translate doesn't always work. So then we try another website called Lingui, and that kind of gives you, like, you type in a word and it gives you synonyms in Spanish or in German or whatever language you're looking for. Sometimes that doesn't always work too. And since I know Spanish, I'm like, I know that doesn't sound right.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I'll try is calling my mom, but sometimes my mom is like, yeah, I don't know how to say that either. So then I'm like, when someone who was born and raised in Mexico doesn't know how to say that, at least I'm not stupid. But yeah, ultimately I do have a producer looking over my script before I actually go out, record it, and then it airs, so that if I say something that's not correct, they can fix that.
Absolutely. Like how many different positions are you kind of working right now? Because are you like reporting and anchoring and writing stories, and what all different things are you doing at once?
So right now I'm just doing reporting. When I first started, I did do some anchoring because I was filling in for the anchor that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am still trying to get some of that anchoring experience, but right now it's just reporting. I'm actually the only dayside reporter in Yakima right now. So I'm doing the job of a Telemundo reporter. So I will go out and shoot my packages. I will write my scripts. I will front them. And then same thing for NBC. I'll go out, shoot. I'll write my scripts and then front them. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. But it is really nice because at the station I work at, they give you a lot of opportunity to do things. So when I first started, they were like, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to go into reporting? Do you want to produce? Do you not know? And then they kind of give you the opportunity to try a little bit of everything. So like when I mentioned I first started, I anchored. I know how to produce already because I did learn. Shout out to Terry. The producing class, how to produce. So I've produced Telemundo several times. What else have I done? I will be getting the opportunity to learn how to do weather as well.
So what you're saying is all those times that we were sitting at midnight in the computer lab in Lind and we were like, this is stupid. Why do we have to do this? You're telling me all those times paid off for you? That's crazy.
Oh, yes, because other people will come in hired and they don't know, how to produce or how to anchor because they've been focused on doing one thing in school, putting packages together or putting bosots together, or maybe they've only done weather. We have gotten the opportunity to do a little bit of everything. So that comes in handy so much because if they need you to fill in for someone and you already know how to do it, they don't have to train you to do it, then you are an asset to them.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it was when I interviewed Tom Cocaine from NPR or Northwest Public Broadcasting. He is a Central alumni, and he was like, yeah, actually in this field, like you have a leg up on the competition for like bigger schools because those kids that are going to like the large universities might get to like do one or two positions their whole time if they're going into journalism. And at Central, it's like we did everything. We did like producing, anchoring, reporting, cameraman, and then you might also be like working for the Observer at the same time, writing. You might be working for Pulse doing writing as well, or I'm doing a podcast right now. Like we did literally everything, and I think that is huge for Central. Like our program is kind of slept on because we get people into the workforce that are ready to do anything, and you're a prime example of that. And I was gonna ask you too, like, how do you think Newswatch, well, or just I'll just say that the student media in general, because you also did Observer for a while as well, right?
I've done all three, yeah.
Nice. And how do you think that, like, do you have any examples of like ways that you were prepared, like when you got into the actual job, you're like, they asked you to do something and you were like, oh, I totally did this. Other than, I mean, you mentioned the producing thing, but do you have any other examples of how you were
Yeah.
prepared?
So with the Observer and Pulse, web copy is a big thing.
Mm.
A lot of people that go into broadcast think that they don't have to know how to write, but you do. Number one, it's going to help you with your scripts and being more conversational, but also when you're doing web copy, your web copy should not be the exact same thing as your script. It
Yeah.
should be more detailed, add more information, use more quotes if you have more quotes and you just didn't have time for them in your package or in your VOSOT. So knowing how to do that and being able to switch from print writing to broadcast writing, like I don't even have to think about it. I can just do it. That's so helpful. And that also gives me, a leg up from the competition because a lot of people don't know how to do that or they hate doing web copy or they simply just don't know how to switch from broadcast writing to print writing. So that's really helpful as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, even though journalistic writing in general is kind of like, it's all based on AP standards, but broadcast writing compared to print writing, it is kind of hard to flip the script because you're like, oh, I was trying to say something in like a matter of time for broadcast. And now when you're writing for print, it's it's not about time. It's about like visual reading and how something looks and how you can, it's still about cutting it down, but it's about, it's different because you're writing a nut graph instead of a lead, or well, you still have a lead, I guess, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like it's a difficult thing to do. But so what's next for Jess Perez? That's my question. Like, are you thinking like, hey, I really like what I'm doing, or are you realizing there's something I'm doing now that I didn't get to do in college that I didn't even know I liked, or what's next?
So that's a big question. First of all, like I mentioned, there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different things at my station. So I'm really looking forward to learning how to do weather, to get some more official anchor training, because I didn't really get official anchor training. I was just kind of, okay, here you go anchor.
Yeah.
So getting official anchor training was going to be really helpful. And then once I get to my year anniversary, which is in another 6 months, because like I mentioned, I just hit my 6-month anniversary on Monday. They're going to sit me down and they're going to talk about, what's next, where do you want to go, and how are we going to help you get there? So right now, I don't really know. I know I love reporting and I definitely want to stick with it for a while. So we'll see where it goes. I'm just trying to learn all I can right now.
Wow, you're doing great from everything I've seen. So do you, as far as like, anchoring, what you said, you were kind of just here, here you go, just put in the spotlight. How was like Newswatch's anchoring different or the same to your experience anchoring like on the air on television, that there's actually a lot of people watching? How was it? What was different or the same about that?
So it was very different because Newswatch, it's maybe 2-3 people watching versus Telemundo is a mid-market station. So there's a lot of people watching, and it's just very nerve-wracking to have all these lights on you. And I know it was similar to that in Newswatch, but these are like bigger lights, bigger cameras. You have someone like directing you when to talk, when to like not talk, how to look. They're telling you, oh, fix your hair. You have like a baby hair sticking out or something like that. So it's just much more real. And knowing that you actually have an audience watching you, absolutely nerve-wracking, but it's also great because you get to, talk to your audience. And like for the Telemundo audience, for me, I just kind of feel like I'm talking to my parents because it's an audience I can relate to more.
Oh, that's nice that you have like a mental exercise you can do. If you're getting nervous, you can just say what I would say if I was telling my parents what's going on.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that some stations let their anchors do their own prompter, like there's a foot pedal. Do you guys do that?
Yes, and I actually have a funny story if you want to hear it.
I do. I really do.
Like the second time that I anchored, I was really tired that day because getting used to being on a journalist schedule and never sleeping is very hard. So I drank a very big Red Bull, kind of similar to this one right here. And then I had to anchor, and I was like controlling my own prompter, but my legs started shaking because of all the Red Bull. And so the prompter kept going up and down. And I could like not concentrate on what I was reading. So that was pretty funny, but it was also a little embarrassing.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure like if people were watching, there's like a highlight to that. And it's if people were watching and they don't know anything about news production, they probably didn't even notice. And the people that were watching that do know probably were like, I know exactly what's happening here. Like, and they probably just thought it was funny because everybody was there at some point. I mean, not me yet, but I mean the pros. Like if the pros were watching, they're probably like, I know exactly what's going on. She had too much caffeine and she's nervous, and that's funny. They probably got a laugh out of it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Jess, I think that's a good place to leave off here. We're trying not to make these things too long anymore. And this is actually my very last podcast. So thank you to everybody who has ever tuned in. And hopefully somebody will pick this up and keep it going. But if not, then maybe I'll do something else in the future. Who knows? I'm really thankful that I got to have you on, Jess, for the last episode. And just thank you very much for being here. Hey, Mom. My mom's home.
Sorry.
Perfect. Perfect timing. But thank you, Jess. And thank you to everybody else. Congratulations on your 6-month anniversary with Telemundo.
Thank you. Good luck on graduating. You got this.
Maybe I'll be there with you soon. Who knows? Probably not at Telemundo because I don't speak Spanish, but somewhere. And a shout out again to Cassius. Sorry you couldn't be on, man. Shout out to everybody who's ever been on the podcast and helped out in any way. You guys are all awesome. This has been a really fun time, and who knows what'll happen next. So thanks everybody. This is going to be the end of it. Have a good one.